Welcome back to The Explainer. So, when we think of high-tech off-road vehicles, we usually picture, steel frames, heavy-duty shocks, massive rubber tires, the whole shebang. But what if I told you that the most perfectly engineered machine for conquering the harshest, most punishing environments on the planet isn't actually a machine at all? It's a living, breathing creature. We're talking, of course, about the camel. Today, we're going to look past that familiar silhouette and break down exactly why this animal is an absolute masterclass in survival engineering. All right, let's dive right in.
First, I want you to just imagine the absolute brutality of the deep desert. We are talking about an environment where daytime temperatures can easily soar past 120 degrees Fahrenheit and then, with almost no warning, plummet to near freezing at night. There's practically no shade, no vegetation, and virtually zero surface water. For almost every large mammal on Earth, this landscape is a literal death sentence. It's just an ocean of scorching, abrasive sand. So the fundamental question we really have to ask is, how is survival even possible out there? How does one animal not just survive, but actively thrive in the most unforgiving landscape on Earth?
Section 1. The Desert Ship. To really understand this, we need to look at the camel's legacy. For centuries, this creature has stood as the ultimate symbol of patience and immense strength in severe environments. In fact, it earned the famous ancient Arabic moniker Safanet as-Sahara, which translates to Ship of the Desert. And it's not just a poetic nickname, it is entirely literal. In the exact same way a wooden galleon was engineered to navigate the unpredictable, deadly waves of the open ocean, the camel is biologically rigged to navigate the vast, rolling dunes of the desert. It carries its precious cargo, us, humanity, and all our supplies across a sea where absolutely no roads can be built. Even its posture and that steady, swaying gait perfectly mimic the rhythm of a ship at sea.
Moving on to Section 2. Armor against the sand.
Navigating this ocean comes with some intense environmental threats, and a major one isn't just the heat, it's the wind, specifically blinding sandstorms. If you or I were out there in winds whipping up sand at highway speeds, our eyes would be shredded. But the camel, it features these exceptionally long, thick eyelashes, and these aren't just for show. They act as highly effective, built-in biological windshields. They actually interlock to form a protective screen perfectly designed to shield the camel's eyes from blowing sand and abrasive dust, all while still allowing it to see perfectly. It's just a beautifully simple, highly specialized piece of armor that keeps the camel moving forward when literally everything else has to hunker down and hide.
Section 3. Energy and Hydration Mastery.
Okay, so once you survive the sandstorms, you face the desert's most terrifying challenge, the absolute lack of food and water. So let's take a second to bust one of the most common misconceptions in the animal kingdom. If you ask most people what's inside a camel's hump, they'll confidently tell you it's a giant water balloon. Well, actually, scratch that. That is completely false. The hump stores fat, not water.
The crucial point here is that this hump is essentially a massive biological auxiliary battery pack. Think about it. In an environment where vegetation might be separated by hundreds of miles of barren rock and sand, a camel can't exactly rely on finding 3 square meals a day. Instead, it gorges whenever food is available, converting those calories into a highly concentrated mound of fat on its back. And why on the back? Well, if that fat were distributed all over its body like, say, a whale's blubber, the camel would trap its core body heat, overheat, and die. Concentrating it in one spot provides energy exactly when the camel needs it to keep its internal engine running without cooking itself in the process. It is an absolutely critical evolutionary feature, allowing the animal to endure starvation for weeks at a time.
But what about the water situation? When a camel finally does find an oasis, its ability to rehydrate is mind-blowing. Check out this staggering number: 100 liters. To put that into perspective, 100 liters is about 26 gallons. That is the equivalent of chugging 50 large soda bottles in a single sitting. When a camel finds water, its body basically acts like a giant, super-absorbent sponge. Its red blood cells are specially shaped. They're actually oval rather than circular. And this allows them to expand massively without bursting as the camel rapidly takes in this astonishing volume of liquid. This unparalleled ability to just rapidly rehydrate acts as the ultimate survival mechanism against relentless, month-long desert droughts. Section 4. Built for the dunes. So it's armored against the sand, and it has completely mastered its internal fuel and water reserves. But how do you actually walk on an ocean of sand? If you've ever tried running on a dry, sandy beach, you know how exhausting it is. Your feet sink, and you have to fight for every single inch.
But camels had these incredibly wide, leathery foot pads that are basically biological all-terrain tires. When a camel steps down, the foot pad spreads out, which dramatically increases the surface area. This perfectly distributes the animal's massive weight, which by the way can be up to 1,500 pounds, and completely prevents it from sinking deeply into the desert floor. It takes what should be an exhausting slog and turns it into a smooth, energy-efficient stride.
Section 5. Mankind's oldest companion.
Now let's zoom out and shift our focus from this incredible physical anatomy to the camel's historical impact. Because these biological marvels aren't just, a fun science lesson. They are deeply, inextricably tied to human survival. Let's rapid-fire summarize these core superpowers we've covered today. This animal thrives in the hottest deserts on Earth. It endures impossibly long periods of thirst and hunger thanks to its hump and unique cellular structure. And it travels immense distances across sinking sand without tiring. Because of this exact combination of traits, the camel became one of humanity's oldest, most reliable companions. Without the camel, entire global trade networks, like the Silk Road, simply wouldn't have functioned. Early human settlements across the Middle East and North Africa absolutely relied on this ultimate ally to transport goods, deliver news, and bridge the massive gaps between isolated oases.
Which brings us to our final takeaway. Think about this majestic ship of the desert one more time. It is so much more than just a beast of burden. It is a masterpiece of evolutionary design, literally perfectly engineered to conquer the unconquerable. And it really leaves you wondering, where would human civilization in the world's harshest climates be today without this incredible biological machine? Would we have ever even connected the ancient world? It definitely gives you a profound, newfound appreciation for just how vital this animal has been to our own history. Well, that's all for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.